Welcome to the Esports Business Podcast, where we connect the time-tested principles of business and team management with the rapidly growing esports industry. I'm Ben Wiggins. Thanks for checking in with us. Let's take a look at our headline. The first step in Overwatch League's geolocation and move to home markets hit a major milestone this past week, selling out the 4,500 capacity Allen Event Center from April 27th to 28th. After witnessing the amazing fan and community reaction of playing the 2018 Grand Finals at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, we were excited to take the Overwatch League on the road again in 2019, said Overwatch League Commissioner Nate Nanzer. We're thrilled that the Fuel are hosting the first ever home market matches. This historic event is a true benchmark on the path to full home and away schedules in 2020. The league has been facing slumping viewership in the opening weeks of Stage 2, but the prospect of home games on the horizon could give the Overwatch League a shot in the arm, especially with sold-out crowds for its first test iteration. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road for the Overwatch League. This is what happens to almost any media venture. Season 2 is often the weakest season of a long-running TV show. It's when you're still figuring out what you're going to be in the long term, but the novelty of your opening run has now worn off. So we're through our first season, we're through the excitement of beginning Season 2. What does the league do now? Dallas Fuel are hitting all the right notes so far. They've promised a festival-style atmosphere at the event, featuring Overwatch-themed photo booths, exclusive merchandise, and a live performance by EDM artist Karma Fields. More on that in a second. As well as the aforementioned matches. As part of their partnership with GameStop, the game retailer will be hosting the Homestand Weekend After Party, for which they are also selling tickets. By the way, I looked up their EDM artist Karma Fields, assuming it was a woman, because that's how much I know. Not the case. Karma Fields is apparently, according to UKF.com, for my fellow old people, the world's first AI artist. In 2015, Monster Cat's famous weekly podcast was, quote, hacked. Video footage showed Karma Fields bringing the entire program to a halt and showing a sneak peek of what we now know was Build the Cities featuring Curly. The response was positive, and from our knowledge, the entity that is Karma Fields has been releasing with Monster Cat ever since. How cool is this? An AI musician. From a broad perspective, the league and the Fuel seem to be doing everything right. As usual, the devil will be in the details. I think safety and security will be adequately handled, but of course those are important boxes to check. What will the viewing experience be like? Really, what I think you want is multiple POVs people can look at, but not all right jammed in next to each other. And then, of course, one big screen capturing a wide of the main action, a wide angle that is. We're starting to figure out broadcasting for esports, but large-scale live viewing is just a different beast, especially for a frenetic, team-based first-person shooter like Overwatch. A few viewing notes. On Saturday, from 7 to 9 p.m. Central, ESPN2 will televise an exclusive 2-hour program featuring a matchup between the Dallas Fuel and Los Angeles Valiant, as well as the Watchpoint post-match show. On Sunday, April 28th, fans can watch the final 2 matches of the weekend, including a clash between the Dallas Fuel and Houston Outlaws, live on Disney XD from 1 to 5 p.m. PST. And one final spoiler, we're going to be there. Top Score and the Esports Business Podcast will be represented at the Fuel event this coming weekend. That's all I can tell you for now. And now to our interview. Our guest today is the CEO of Q.GG. Mas, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So tell our listeners a little bit about Q. A lot of them are going to be familiar with it already, but what is it? What does it do? Why would people want to use it?
Well, Q basically lets you analyze your team odds in a much easier way. Before us, people were using like 5 to 6 different softwares, from like recording, putting to YouTube, Excel sheets. We pretty much compiled all that, got rid of all the clutter and the noise, and basically gave you a platform to do your online scrim reviews in the easiest way possible.
Okay. What games does it focus on, and what are your biggest selling points for the service?
Right now, we mainly focus on the top games right now, like Overwatch, League of Legends, CSGO, but we can add as many games as we want to the platform as possible. The main reason why they're using this is because pro teams and contender teams use this to like analyze the scrims together with their coach, and also like amateur people that wants to play at a higher level together with their teammates use it for that.
Right. You talked a little bit about eliminating the clutter. How would you describe the way the interface works? If someone was like experienced with the games, how would you describe your interface in such a way that it would kind of sell the platform to them, but be, understandable to an experienced gamer, but someone who hasn't used your service before?
Yeah, so the reason why I say clutter before Q was that what they would normally do for like recording their games, so they use like OBS to record their games, and they would like upload to YouTube under Unlisted, and they would basically send that link to all their teammates and coaches, and they would just write like a paragraph long of just, this is how you do it, this is at this point you did this wrong, at this point you did this wrong, with just a little, like a timestamp, like 1 minute, 32 seconds in. To me, when I was doing this with my co-founder Bathwater like 10 years ago in World of Warcraft, I thought this was the most annoying thing in the world, and I thought this was, the best we're going to get. Run down the road, I learned how to actually code. I decided to build this as a side project for just me and him to use together. And the key part with us is the timestamps. So if you actually go on any kind of VOD on Q.gg, you can actually see a markers of green, red, or yellow, and just go straight to the marker, straight to the point of what part they actually messed up in. And on top of that, after your coach like reviews your VOD, you're able to go live with it and go into the live room and actually discuss it more in depth.
So what is your and your CEO's background within esports? I mean, you mentioned not too long ago that Bathwater kind of knows the industry in and out, or he's very experienced in it. I mean, you've obviously started a startup, but doing a startup in the tech industry or any other industry versus esports, it's a completely different beast from what I've heard. Where does your experience sort of transfer over? Where does Bathwater kind of fill the holes? I mean, do you guys sort of play off of each other?
Yeah, we kind of play off each other. So my main expertise is in engineering and just, acquiring funding for the company to keep going, managing employees, that kind of stuff. Typical CEO role stuff. Bathwater, on the other hand, he's the market expert here. Like, he is the real guy that drives growth for Q. He's the one that makes sure the product is usable to gamers, it appeals to gamers. He's the one that talk to, like 80% of our 10,000 plus users. Like, just one-on-one. Like, that's all he does. He has like Discord open all day long, just talks all day to the users. That's where we really shine. Is like, he knows the market very well. He's a gamer. He was top 500 Overwatch for a very long time. He is a troll, but which gamer isn't? And I'm the guy that makes sure that the product is working fine and engineering is fine. Our background, however, his background is 100% gaming. That's how he made money. We actually we did a startup before I graduated college, and that's how we first learned to work together and stuff. And my background is like very random. It's just biochemistry and physics.
So you mentioned that you were solving like certain problems. I know back when I used to watch esports, and we're all kind of old probably, we used to watch esports back when it was just the first season of LCS and things like that. A big problem was like scrim VODs getting leaked and strategies getting leaked. The unlisted YouTube, somebody sends the link to some random person, it gets leaked. Does your tool like lessen the chance of stuff getting leaked because do they need like an access code, or do they need an invite to the room to actually go in?
Yeah, so what happens is with Q, if you're a professional team, you should be creating a private group within Q. And that private group is only accessible if you have an access link to it. So it's similar to like a private Discord server. Anyone with a Discord server link to join it will have access to it. And you can always like change the invite code and whatever. That's one of the things about the YouTube scrim with Unlisted. They're sharing it, but whoever gets that link still has access to it. With Q, if you get a link to one of the VOD that's in a private group, if you're not in that private group, there's no way you're going to have access to that.
What has the timeline been for the company? So you mentioned that this started as something you guys were using for your own purposes on World of Warcraft years ago. What big internal events or changes have defined the direction for the company and the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story. I did a startup about like 3-4 years ago, a different industry. We ended up getting acquired like about 1.5 years ago. And around like June or July, my co-founder and I, we play Overwatch together and stuff in World of Warcraft. We decided we just want to do a startup. Like we've been friends for like 10 plus years now, and we decided we just want to do a startup. So we said, you know what, let's use Y Combinator Startup School, if you guys are familiar with that. Y Combinator Startup School as a way to launch Q into the public. So we decided to go into Y Combinator Startup School, built a product, tried to make it like production ready so other people can use this, not just internal. And then we decided to launch it. And we got really serious towards like, I'd say the end of November was when suddenly we got like random surge of users. Because we got like 500 or 1,000 users within like 2-3 weeks, and the only people that knew about Q during that time was pretty much our friends. That's it. And a month later down the road, we got an interview with Y Combinator to fund us. That's actually where we learned about Visor.gg during that interview. And we decided to just, let's just go full ham. JP, you quit your job, I'll give you a salary, and I'm going to just, live off my past stuff. And we decided to go full time on it.
So you mentioned Visor and Pursuit. Were you ever afraid that your company would sort of run into the same kind of legal troubles that they would? I mean, from previous knowledge, we kind of know that they got executed or banned. So like you're affluent in the business industry. You started up a company and you sold it. Were you more aware of the legal repercussions of what you were doing?
We don't think we're actually going against TOS because we actually, emailed Blizzard here and there about like what we're doing, and they said it's fine. As far as Visor.gg goes, we interviewed with a VC. They're kind of a VC firm called Y Combinator, and they actually compared us to Visor.gg and told us exactly what they did. And my co-founder didn't like really want to say it straight to their face because it would be kind of rude, but he wanted to basically say that Visor.gg was basically deadly boss mods in World of Warcraft for Overwatch, and that there's just no way it's not going to get banned. And this was, I believe, during, I think, in October, and they got banned in November. So, and the Visor.gg team is freaking fantastic, and they're just great couple of guys. But I just don't think they realized that their product really impacted the community of Overwatch players. Like, it pretty much gave them a way to cheat or get an unfair advantage over others, and that's kind of why they got banned. And they also did it in real time, which is the biggest issue.
Right. For any of our listeners who aren't familiar with any of the terms that we're using, TOS is terms of service in terms of, how Blizzard allows people to, implement services that will help people shape their gaming experience. Do you want to explain to our listeners what Y Combinator is?
Yeah, sure. So Y Combinator is an accelerator from Silicon Valley. Are you guys familiar with Twitch.tv?
Yeah, we've heard of it.
I think we are. I think maybe.
You think you heard of them? Yeah. So Y Combinator was the first investors in Twitch.tv. And it's as well as Dropbox, Airbnb, the list goes on. They're probably the best accelerator in the world, and we interviewed with them, and we also did their startup school, and during from August till I believe November. That's what really helped launch Q.gg, and they were one of the companies that looked to us to see if they would invest in us.
So how have other things? So you mentioned that you guys were always pretty confident that you would be in line with TOS, Blizzard's terms of service. But how have changes that they've made or, other things that are happening out in the gamosphere, how has that affected the way you handle your operations? Have there been any major inflection points for you or any major shifts that you've had to make?
Yeah, the biggest shift that we had to make was honestly the live room. We originally built the live room as a way for like coaches to actually teach their students better. This was before we even learned about like Mayhem or anything like that. The core product of Q was originally just a timestamp, with the timestamp, with the commentating, the drawing and stuff over the VOD. That was the original. And when we had the actual contender teams from Overwatch started using us, they would ask us, hey, listen, all these other products that we're using for these VOD reviews, they're just really bad. We need you to build this like as soon as possible. And that's kind of just what we did. When we started getting those contenders, that's when we really started to pick up in the pace of like a development speed.
So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. I mean, you guys are obviously gamers. You guys mentioned playing World of Warcraft. Were there any other sort of competitive games that kind of drove the initiative? You said that it was originally for personal use. Was like the Overwatch League or the release of Overwatch where a sort of light bulb moment happened for you and your COO? Or was it just sort of, we've been doing this for World of Warcraft, we can easily transfer over the API or the whatever the model?
Yeah, Overwatch was it actually. It was the one that literally made us go, all right, you know what, this is actually useful in the community. Because we found out that a lot of the people were actually doing VOD reviews using like YouTube unlisted videos. And we're in like, a lot of the communities and stuff, like Fire Overwatch, and they would like post links to it. And we just saw that they were like, commenting on the Discord about like with like a paragraph of long text and stuff. It was just, no, that's just bad. But yeah, Overwatch is probably the thing that really made us go at it hard.
Have you ever considered or speculated on whether your product could be used with broadcasting? I mean, used with esports tournaments as a replay or review tool? Like, how do you think your technology would contribute to that process, like the production process?
It's interesting you mentioned this because we have talked about this before with our users about using it live because they always compared us to
the
like,
telestrator
the NFL or something or like FIFA and stuff.
John Madden,
like the
drawing
telestrator
X's
where
and
they were
O's and yelling, boom!
Yeah. Yeah. So they will like rewind it back and like start drawing on it, and it's like, hey, I should have done this, should have done that. Oh, you should have done this. We do want to eventually go that route, but to do that, I believe would require some kind of partnership deal with Twitch, similar to how Overwatch League did it with Twitch for their command center. We would need to do the same thing with Twitch, and we do think that we can do that, especially if we get into YC. Maybe they'll hook it up, but yeah, we definitely want to do that.
So we mentioned one company or website earlier. How do you think you fare against the competition in terms of user base, credibility, public, like just how do you think you do, and how do you think you fare against other sites in terms of all like the general business aspects?
Like a site like Flow Feedback, for example.
We aren't that worried about competition, to be honest, because we're firm believers that the best product will always win. And that's how we pretty much ran Q from day one. And our co-founder and I decided from a very long time ago that, we're not going to worry about competition. If they keep building and competing against us, great, let them. We want more software out there for esports and gamers. So we're completely fine with that. And the market is big enough for multiple players anyways. So companies like Flow Feedback, Advisor, please just keep building, guys. Don't stop. We do think that Flow Feedback doesn't build anymore. Like, I think the original guy who he put it up there, and it's just staying like that. Q, on the other hand, is completely different. We ship fast. Actually, you can see all the things. You can see how much we ship by going to q.gg/patches. We try to publicize whoever gives us a recommendation. We give them credit for giving those recommendations every time we release updates, etc. That's one thing we're definitely proud of in Q, is that we ship updates real fast.
What's been the best recommendation that you've gotten from a user?
Integrate Discord server into the login. That has been the best. Like, honestly, like, you guys have no idea. Like, our like user feedback model, like, we get the feedback, we think, iterate, push it out, get more user feedback, iterate, push it out. It's like a repeat cycle over and over again for your product. With Discord, when we integrate Discord authentication, it would automatically add them to our Discord Q server, and that grew our community from like 50 to like literally thousands in like literally a month. And that has been the driving force for our development speed.
So you mentioned building a community, and I'm looking at your website right now. I looked at it earlier this week and everything. I see like the community tab, the leaderboard tab mentions that these people are the best ones that give advice. How do you go about running a business and also fostering a community that promotes your business in a positive light? Like, how do you balance those two? Do you guys have somebody like a social media manager or something like that, or is it just you and your COO?
Oh, it's just me and our CEO. We handle everything. We have some, like good guys out there in our community. We have a security guy right now, Professor, that's his username, and he pretty much, makes security tests all of our software. But other than that, it's just JP and I doing it all.
We talked briefly about your vision for the future, and we talked a little bit about production and so forth, but what other things do you have in the pipeline to implement over the next few years? You mentioned that you ship very quickly, but is there anything out there that you feel like is a more ambitious thing that's going to take you some time to put together?
Oh, man. Vision and ambition, there's a lot. There's a lot there. So one thing we definitely want to get, I don't know when it's going to happen, maybe 1 year from now, maybe 5 years from now, but it's going to happen, is we want to integrate with all the top games. So instead of recording your game using OBS, it will Like we want to integrate with Overwatch, for example. So when you're done with a game, there's a little button on the bottom right that says push the queue, and it automatically pushes your VOD to your queue group, so your teammates can instantly view it and analyze it instead of using OBS to record, download it to your computer, then upload it to queue. We want to eliminate that part. We want to integrate it within the game. That's one of the main goals that we're working on right now. The other goal would be to just make sure every single gamer uses it. We want to support all the games eventually. And there has been talks about introducing Q.GG to like various other industries, such as like sports, tennis, golf, etc. But we're just gonna wait until we do that, or we think about that kind of stuff. We want to focus on gamers right now.
So you seem pretty keen on keeping a relatively small team. Is it just because this company is still considered a startup? Do you not? Is it just budget costs, or or is it some crazy reason like you don't trust anybody else?
No, the trust isn't really a big deal, to be honest. We're pretty open with everything we do. Hell, we're planning on open sourcing a lot of parts of Q, anyways. The reason why it's a small team is because one, funding. Funding is kind of hard to get, and I don't think we're ready for funding. We're probably going to be doing a small seed round of like $3-4 million in like August or November. But during that time, even when we do hire, it's going to be like 4, maybe 5 engineers, 2 UI UX designers. That's kind of it, because I'm a firm believer that the smaller your team is, the faster you're able to ship products, because there's less headaches, there's less people to go and ask, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? I don't want that crap. If you're an employee in Q and you want to build something cool, go build it, and then we're gonna go ahead and launch it, and we're gonna see how it works. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, we'll just cut it out and we'll try something else.
Cool, man. So let's talk long term. You mentioned integrating directly with Overwatch, integrating directly with League. In the long term, it seems like the evolution of that, the eventual evolution of that, is just to be plugged into all major games, and this is what people use for VODs, and it's integrated with everything. But what else is in your vision for what the company could eventually become? Do you guys envision a brick and mortar space? Would that help you at all? What else is, what's your end game?
Brick and mortar, that's debatable. I'm not 100% sure about that, because we think everyone loves to be on the internet. The end game, honestly, would be to make sure that we are used by different industries as well, such as physical sports like weightlifters, online coaches, golf, tennis, etc. Because we want Q to become big. If you're looking at Twitch right now, from when they started with like StarCraft 2, then moved to like World of Warcraft, moved to like other games like Overwatch right now, and now they're also moving towards like live view or cooking channels and stuff like that. So they're expanding their market. And to be a $1 billion company, which is what we aspire to be, we have to eventually do that as well. When that is, kind of depends on our growth rate, to be honest. And it depends on how popular we get. But that would probably be the end goal, where we're used by every industry that's competitive.
So I'm looking at your service right now, and if I got this right, correct me if I'm wrong, but like almost virtually anybody can log in, use your VOD review site, and create private rooms. Are you not necessarily worried, but we mentioned on a couple episodes ago about exposure and how a lot of people are sort of just using their product, using certain people's products or anything like that as exposure. Do you eventually want to go to like maybe possibly like a paid service with premium, additions for teams and stuff like that? Or is this something where you want to keep it open source and you just want to go, this is for the community, we'll make our money through ad space, ad revenue, and partnership deals and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Monetization is always something that our listeners are thinking about.
Yeah, we're not going to do ads. Just simple as that. We're going to try our best to like never do ads, because we think ads suck. If Q.GG had ads and I'm an active user, I'm going to put on ad block. That's just me being honest. So we're going to try to avoid ads. We will put in premium services, like premium subscription, like a freemium models, where professional teams with private groups, they can pay like $40 a month for their whole team, and they get a wide variety of access to different features. Let's say better organization for their VODs, more like map overlays when they're watching the VOD, better communication tools, all this stuff. So that's how we want to monetize.
So what this makes me think of is the way that basketball has started using like really, really granular information, including information about like where players ideally like should be standing on defense, things like that. Like the amount of data capture that we now have in traditional sports is just crazy, completely insane. So, do you think that one thing that would help Q?
I think I know where you're getting at this. I don't know why I didn't mention it before when you asked me long-term vision. You're talking about those programs that uses AI and computer vision to determine what a player should be doing or what they did wrong without like a human being. Yeah, so we are actually trying to integrate with this. I don't want to say their name because it's not a done deal yet. We're trying to integrate with this company that does AI coaching for Overwatch. And basically, they use videos to do it, just like all the other companies. If you're using computer vision, you're using video probably. So yeah, we 100% want to do that crap. Yes. Like every time you upload a VOD, we want to give you a list of all the top software that does AI-based coaching, and we want to run your video right through it, and then spit it out the other end for you and your coach to all check it out.
Kind of branching off of that, what has the esports industry been like in terms of? Is it wild, wild west? Is it vicious? Is it just like super? Is it more structured now than it was maybe like 5 to 8 years ago? What we used to hear about.
I think esports is blowing up right now. I think if you're gonna get into esports, right now is the time. Like there is those moments when the iPhone releases, when the first computer releases, and this is one of those moments for esports. Games like Fortnite and all that, they introduced non-gamers into gaming, and those gamers into esports. So right now is probably the best time for esports, and I think we're just getting started. If you look at the amount of viewers that esports gets compared to like other sports, it's insane. And the fact that all of these people that plays video games, they can just do it from their computer. They don't need to be like 6'5", 250 pounds to go play football. They have accessibility. That's the great thing about esports. Right, this is probably the best time for esports right now. It's much more structured. The one thing I would say should be a lot better is the pay. I think esports players should be paid a lot more than what they're getting paid right now. And I think they will, especially if you see all those celebrities are trying to buy esports teams like San Francisco Shock and all that. It's only going to get better.
Right. As esports continues to grab more market share, and one thing that esports does not really have in place yet is collective bargaining. And I think once that gets into play, you'll see contracts start to rise. You may also see a ceiling on contracts at some point, kind of like the NBA does. But I think they'll make that money back in endorsements. One other question, or one other, I guess, comment that I wanted to make is the importance of market research. And it sounds like what Bathwater is doing a lot of is basically informal market research, just by being active on the Discord community and so forth. I think one of the big takeaways for our listeners is just to understand the importance of constantly engaging with your consumer. Or your client, whether it's a business or a consumer, is the idea that you have to have your finger on the pulse. You have to know what they're looking for, and it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of capturing that. So any funny stories or heartwarming moments that you feel like have been particularly noteworthy before we close out?
Yeah, so the heartwarming moments and the little scary part has been the last month, honestly, since we released live rooms. Our growth has been really, really high. Like our graph is just up, and we're just wondering how long is this gonna last? It's just been going up. And Bathwater, he didn't have electricity for 4 days because his whole city went out of electricity in Quebec, and so it's man, and we're still just getting good growth. How long is this gonna last? Hopefully a while.
That's great, man. Happy you guys are doing well. Happy for your success.
Thank you.
So, Moss, it was great having you on. I think your service is absolutely amazing. I think it's pretty revolutionary how fast you guys are outputting stuff. So besides your website, q.gg, do you guys have a Twitter, an Instagram? Do you guys do community giveaways, a Discord? Anything you want to plug, just go at it.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, if I had to plug anything, try q.gg and let us know what you think. Other than that, if you want to follow me, it's twitter.com/MASUDRHOSSAIN. We do post and listen to our users on twitter.com/QGG, but we recommend that you join our Discord channel instead, because that's probably the best way to contact us, and you'll get direct contact with all the founders.
And they can link to that from your website?
Yes, they can.
Okay, perfect. All right, Mas, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure to check back every week for more episodes. Our newest segment with the company, In Case You Missed It, can be found on Instagram at Esports Business News. If you have a moment to subscribe to the pod on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review or offer us some feedback, we greatly appreciate it. We love positivity, but also we want to make the show the best it can be. If you want to do more to support us, consider joining our Patreon under Top Score Solutions and get access to exclusive content and perks. We've also put links to our Discord, Twitter, Facebook, and website in a shortened link in the show post. We appreciate you listening. Stay gold, everyone.